The Ebenezer trailer came out recently. It's about a week, 2 weeks ago. So this is late, but whatever. I haven't scripted any thoughts about this. Just gonna go off the top of my head here. But ostensibly Johnny Depp's comeback, right? Boy, I don't think it's gonna work, and I wish it would. That's kind of what all this is gonna boil down to. I'm a big Johnny Depp fan. Ever since, I fell in love with cinema, Johnny Depp's been one of my favorite actors. Now, of course, before the Me Too movement, before the Amber Heard trial, before he kind of just was kicked out of the mainstream, he was already still on sort of a downward arc, right? For the last 20 years or so, he's done nothing but play Jack Sparrow in different movies that aren't Pirates of the Caribbean. The Mad Hatter is Jack Sparrow in Alice in Wonderland. That movie Mordecai, that movie Dark Shadows, all just riffs on the Jack Sparrow persona ultimately. Which is sad because I think he's more talented than that. I don't think his talent just went away. I think the talent that he had in the 90s and the early 2000s is still there. But before the Amber Heard trial, I kept waiting for the comeback, the swan song era of his career, the Hugh Jackman's Logan of his career, And it kept not happening because he kept taking the stupidest role. Like, anytime he wasn't playing Jack Sparrow in a movie, he was taking a role that just like, there's no way that's going to be your redemption, dude. That's no way that's going to be your comeback. Black Mass is not going to be your comeback. Murder on the Orient Express is not going to be your comeback, I don't know who his agent is or whether the agent was choosing the parts or he was choosing the parts. I don't know how that all worked, but bad decisions were being made. Okay, so then the Amber Heard trial has happened, and he's been out of the public eye for a few years, or at least out of the blockbuster mainstream public eye. And now we're trying to make a comeback. Ty West, I think is how you say his name, Ty West is directing an adaptation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Johnny Depp is going to play Ebenezer Scrooge. So this trailer starts, and by the way, Ty West, decent filmmaker, not super original, but the X trilogy's okay. Pearl's the best of them. X and Maxine are not great, but they're fine. They're passable. House of the Devil, movie he made early with Greta Gerwig at the beginning. Not a good movie, but the vibes were very good. So Ty West, acceptable director. There's worse people you could get to direct Christmas Carol, I'm sure. So he's releasing this movie Thanksgiving of this year. The trailer came out a couple weeks ago. The trailer starts, and it's very aware that Johnny Depp is in the lead role. It's clearly, from the way that it is structured, setting out to, be Johnny Depp's comeback movie. You watch the text go over the screen, and we haven't seen Depp's face yet. And it's going, he brought us Jack Sparrow, Edward Scissorhands, and the Mad Hatter, and now the Master of Misfits returns as Ebenezer Scrooge. So, glad that that's what the trailer was going for. Glad that we're all on board in terms of the people, setting up the marketing anyway. We're all on board for making this Johnny Depp's comeback. But you already can tell how flawed an idea this is to make Christmas Carol and Ebenezer Scrooge Johnny Depp's comeback. If you just think about it even for a couple seconds. Like, first of all, he brought us Jack Sparrow, Edward Scissorhands, and the Mad Hatter. Well, what did 2 out of the 3 of those have in common? Jack Sparrow and Edward Scissorhands are entirely original characters, right? And they have not been portrayed by 100 other actors like Ebenezer Scrooge has. Now, Mad Hatter, I guess there's not been a ton of live-action Alice in Wonderlands, but Mad Hatter is not the same type of, thing as Jack Sparrow because it pre-existed. It existed before Johnny Depp's take on it. And also, I don't know why those movies are made so much money at the box office. I don't know why those movies were successful because they're bad. And Johnny Depp, again, is like, that's one of those parts where, like, hey, that was not a unique part. That was Jack Sparrow as the Mad Hatter. So we shouldn't be putting Jack Sparrow and Johnny Depp's portrayal of the Mad Hatter and Edward Scissorhands all in the same tier. Jack Sparrow and Edward Scissorhands are in a higher tier. So there's that. But Jack Sparrow and Edward Scissorhands that was at the time in Johnny Depp's career where if he was ever an artist, if he was ever a craftsman building something new, that's when he was doing it. He made those characters his own, But you're not going to make Ebenezer Scrooge your own. All you do as Ebenezer Scrooge is say humbug. And by the way, why is it the Master of Misfits? Because Ebenezer Scrooge is not a misfit. He's a jackass. He's not eschewed from social circles because he's a misfit. Everybody in Ebenezer's life wants to be his friend. He's just an asshole. And he doesn't want to be their friend. So he's not a misfit. So even though this text is only like a very small part of the trailer, it's just sort of sending your brain all over the place. At least it is if you pause and think about it. I might be the only one who's paused and thought about it. But it's just, I would have picked something else. But, I don't know if you could pick something else to be Johnny Depp's comeback, because I'm sure that part of the reason it had to be Ebenezer Scrooge and A Christmas Carol is that it was hard to get Johnny Depp cast in a leading role. It was hard for a studio to agree on that if it wasn't some IP. And, theoretically, I guess it would be smarter to return to the Pirates of the Caribbean IP, but the thing is, it's not smart enough because Dead Men Tell No Tales was a flop, and rightfully so. That movie was the last Jedi-ification of the Pirates series. I love the Pirates series. I know some people think that all of the sequels have been mid or bad, but up until Dead Men Tell No Tales, I was on board. Even on Stranger Tides. On Stranger Tides is fine. It's a gentleman's 6 out of 10 movie, in my opinion. But Dead Men Tell No Tales, it wasn't even the last Jedi-ification of the series. It was the entire sequel trilogy-ification of the series. It was the Force Awakens of the series. It was the Last Jedi of the series. It was the Rise of Skywalker of the series. It was just bad, and it was blasphemous to the canon of pirates. So, and honestly, I still would like them to make a 6 Pirates of the Caribbean movie. But the thing is that I say that, and I don't mean I want them to make a 6th movie. I want the fans' version of what Pirates of the Caribbean 6 would be. I want what I'm picturing in my head, and I would never in a million years have any faith that they would make something similar to that after having seen what they did with Dead Men Tell No Tales. There's a few other hardcore Pirates of the Caribbean fans still out there online. I've looked over their theories. I've heard their proposals. I think a fan-based Pirates of the Caribbean 6, that would be good, but that's not going to happen. So regardless, even if it was going to happen, it wouldn't be, monetarily speaking, the best thing to bank on. And yet at the same time, you need an IP probably because they're concerned about selling Johnny Depp in some new capacity. They want to guarantee that they're going to make some money. So that, I guess, is why they landed on Christmas Carol and on Ebenezer. But it's just like, I can just look at this trailer and maybe the movie's going to be good, but it's not going to make money. Look at the way that they're selling it. They go, the name you know, the story you don't. I can't be the only one who laughed at that. Come on. The story you don't? Everyone knows the story of the Christmas Carol. You don't have to have seen or read A Christmas Carol to know the story of A Christmas Carol. And just because you retitle it Ebenezer, that doesn't mean anything. You're not going to make any drastic changes to the story. And if you did, that wouldn't go over well either. People would be like, what the hell did they do to the Christmas Carol story? So it's just not a smart idea. None of it is. And why is Johnny Depp getting sucked into the bed like Nightmare on Elm Street, the little inside joke? Like, are we homaging his entire career with this movie? Is that the idea? Here's what should be, like, I don't know if it's Depp's ego or, again, his agents or somebody whispering into his ear. I don't know. Whoever makes the decisions for him will probably, I doubt they're even smart enough to think this way. But here's what Johnny Depp should be doing if he wants to make a comeback. He should be taking supporting roles. That's how a disgraced actor makes a comeback. Take supporting roles. Why? Because you pop up in a movie for a scene or two, and you haven't been around for a while, and the audience subconsciously goes, hey, it's him. It's so nice to see him again. And because you're only in it for a couple of scenes, you leave them wanting more. And you do that for a few movies in a row. And then I still wouldn't even go the headlining route. Johnny Depp's time as a movie star is over. It was over before the Amber Heard trial. What you do after that is you hope to get some kind of TV series. You hope to get a deal for a co-leading role in like an Apple TV Plus show, you know? Like what Kurt and Wyatt Russell are doing with the Monarch series, or Harrison Ford with Jason Segel in the Shrinking series. I haven't seen a single episode of either of those shows, but I can tell you that is exactly what they should be doing, because it allows them to do something a little bit more unique. Maybe not the Monarch, but definitely the Shrinking show allows Harrison Ford to be doing something a little bit different than what he would have to do in the movies, you know? A little bit different than what he would be doing in Brave New World and Dial of Destiny. But not so different that like I'm sure he can still do the Harrison Ford thing, his grumpy older man persona that he's had since the 2000s. And it's not as successful as a big budget movie, but it doesn't need to be, because it's satisfying both parties. You know, it's satisfying anybody who wants to watch Harrison Ford, and I have to imagine it's satisfying Harrison Ford because he's playing a part in a genre, in a show that's largely different from what he's done in the past. At least that's what I get from the trailer. Again, I haven't watched it. But that's what Johnny Depp should be shooting for. You know how Tobey Maguire just popped up in No Way Home, and then right after that he popped up in Babylon, did something weird, and then just tapped out again? That's what Johnny Depp should be doing. Because that's what he's good at anyway. He's good at playing the weird, so he should be playing weird characters. He just needs to get over the fact that he can't do it as the main character. The main character is not an option for him right now. You know? But I wish we could have him back. I don't think this will be it. And what's more disappointing is if this is not it, if Ebenezer is not a success, critically or financially, then nobody's going to bank on him again after this. I don't even know if he would be able to have the supporting role / Apple TV Plus series path in his career now, if this fails. But that's my thoughts. Hopefully I'm wrong, but we'll see. We'll see.